Angels are more knowledgeable than we are. Do you guys know that? They know God better than we do. They have better theology than we do. How do we know that? Because James says, you believe that God is one, even the demons believe and shudder. They know God. The demons recognize Jesus and they're afraid. How many humans say, I know Jesus, and they have no fear of him whatsoever? What are angels? First, they are spiritual beings. Romans 8:30-39, Paul says, for I am sure that neither life nor death, nor angels nor rulers. Okay, so he contrasts this life and death, and he contrasts his angels and rulers. Paul tends to use this term rulers to contrast angels. What are rulers? Not talking about human rulers, but what? Who are the spiritual rulers? By the way, who rules the world spiritually? It's not the angels. It's what? Satan and his demons. Actually, Satan is a demon. He's not a class above. He's a demon. We just give him the title Satan, adversary. He's the chief of the demons, but he's still a demon nevertheless, because demons were simply angels who rebelled against God. All right. So they are spiritual beings. Sometimes they could come into the human world and express themselves physically, like messenger angels tend to do. Or sometimes they stay in the spiritual realm and we don't see them. And sometimes God might allow some of his people to get a vision of what's going on in the spiritual realm when they see the throne of God and these seraphim all around. But they're all active all around you. Angels are active, demons are active because they're battling one another. Because the fight is not between God and Satan, the fight is between whom? Angels and demons. Satan and Michael. And in the end, as powerful as Satan is, Michael is actually going to beat him. That's how powerful angels are. Let's talk about how the angels then were created, or the origin of angels. We know that they were created by God. They are not pre-existent, eternal like Jesus is. How do we know that? Colossians 1:16. For by him, speaking about Jesus, all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions, or, what's the term Paul uses there? Rulers. Notice Paul keeps using the term rulers. What is he referring to? The demonic, the demons. He's not talking about human rulers here. Because he just said what? Thrones or dominions is referring to human rulers or spiritual rulers, Satan and his demons. All of them were created through Jesus and for Jesus. Do you guys see that? Colossians 1:16? Do you recognize how crazy that statement is? God, Jesus created all these angels, and eventually some of them are demons, for himself. Why do you think demons cannot fight back to Jesus during his gospel ministry? They listen to him. Think about that. They all hate Jesus, yet they obey Jesus. Why? Because Jesus is the one who created them. Second, angels are created good. Originally, they're all good. Even the demons were originally good. Job 38:4-7. He speaks to Job saying, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Who stretched the line upon it? Or where its base is sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Morning star, sons of God. What's he referring to? These are terms for spiritual angelic beings. So, God is speaking to Job. He's like, where were you when I created the angels, the angelic world? It's his way to humbling Job. Like, maybe if you weren't there, you should just trust me even if you don't understand. Because I created everything, including the angels. And I included even the one who is persecuting you right now, Satan himself. God is fully the one who creates all things. Next, angels are actually greater than humans. What do I mean by greater? Let's look at Hebrews chapter 2, verses 5-9. For it was not to angels that God subjected the world to come. In other words, it's not the angels who's going to rule the kingdom on earth one day, of which we are speaking. It has been testified somewhere, what is man that you are mindful of him, or the son of man that you have care for him? You made him, speaking of Jesus, for a little while lower than the angels. So when was Jesus ever lower than the angels? When he became fully what? Man. What's the implication? Man is under angels. Jesus became lower than the angels for a period of time in his incarnation. You have crowned him with glory and honor, putting everything in subjection under his feet. Now, in putting everything in subjection to him, he left nothing outside his control. At present, we do not see everything as subjection to him, but we see him who for a little while was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. So God, the second person of the Trinity, Jesus, the author of Hebrews saying, was made lower than the angels, so that he can then bring mankind with him to be above the angels one day, to subject them over him. So what is the implication? Originally, angels are greater than humans. In what sense? They're more powerful than us. You're not going to beat an angel in the fight. That's why, what's the implication? If Satan is a fallen angel, what does that mean? You cannot beat him. You cannot beat Satan at his own game. Why do you think Satan is not afraid of any human being? Because he has a 100% track record since Adam. Every single person except for one he couldn't figure out. And we saw with Jesus, he tried. He brought everything. He made Judas do and it didn't happen, right? Angels are more powerful than we are. Angels are more knowledgeable than we are. Do you guys know that? They know God better than we do. They have better theology than we do. How do we know that? Because James says, you believe that God is one, even the demons believe and shudder. They know God. The demons recognize Jesus and they're afraid. How many humans say, I know Jesus, and they have no fear of him whatsoever? How many humans are just denigrate Jesus? They have no afraid of God's judgment. You know why? They don't really know God. Oh, God is loving. Oh, yeah, he'll forgive me all the time. Angels don't talk that way. Demons don't talk that way. Why? Because their theology is better than ours. They've seen it. Do you notice that? Do you notice how demons respond to Jesus versus humans respond to Jesus? In Jesus' ministry, how do humans, for the most part, respond besides a couple hundred of them by the end of his ministry? Just give me free bread. And they walk away. Every single demon has fear. Why? Because angels are greater than us in that sense. They have more knowledge of God. Which implies what? Satan has more knowledge of God than you. That's how Satan can get you. Because he can outsmart you in theology. He can say the truth in ways that sound right but has a subtle lie that will bait you. You cannot beat Satan at his game. You cannot beat him by your willpower. You cannot beat him by biblical knowledge. That's not how you're going to beat him. The only way you can resist Satan and the demons, we're going to learn next week, is you need a greater power that's outside of you. Because humans are what? Lower than angels.